nonpartisan, grassroots, civic organization that encourages informed and active participation in government. The League works to increase understanding of major public policy issues and influences public policy through education and advocacy. Membership in the League is open to everyone. With over 100 years of experience, the League of Women Voters is one of America's oldest and most trusted civic nonprofit organizations. Election information for the Richardson ISD elections can be found on the League of Women Voters at Richardson's website, which is lwvrichardson.org. The site is updated as new information becomes available. Nonpartisan printed voters guides are available here today. Due to space limitations, only 4 questions and the candidates' answers appear in the printed voters guide. Printed voters guides are also available at the Richardson Library, Richardson Heights Recreation Center, Richardson Senior Center, Richardson Huffines Recreation Center. Our printed voters guide is great, but even better is the League's online voters guide, because the online voters guide has asked 15 questions, and these candidates have answered all of those questions. The 4 questions that are in our printed voters guide are also in the online voters guide. You'll find a QR code in your program that you have today with a link to the online voters guide on our website, or go directly to vote411.org. The League did not edit any of the candidates' responses to the voters guide questions, either online or in print. Many thanks to the Richardson League volunteers working today, including the greeters at the front door, the ushers getting your written questions to the screeners, the question screeners who are seated to my left, and the timekeepers who are in the front row. So if you have any questions during the forum that you would like to have asked, please just hold up a card, we will bring it to you, and we'll give you another, in case you have a second question you'd like to ask, leave another card. Many thanks to those who have submitted questions to ask the candidates. We ask for questions on our Facebook page and other social media. And you responded. If we don't use your question tonight, it may be because we collected more questions than we will have time for. It's also possible that your question was used in an online voters guide. We try not to duplicate if we can help it. I do guarantee that all questions submitted have been considered. Many thanks to the candidates, both for attending our forum this evening and for your willingness to serve our community. We wish each of you good luck. The moderator for our forum is Paul Velker. Mr. Velker was first elected to the Richardson City Council in 2013 and served as Richardson's mayor from 2015 through 2023. Mr. Velker is an executive in the technology industry. He has worked for companies like Hewlett-Packard, Ericsson, and several other companies, big and small. He currently works for Export Development Canada, which is Canada's credit agency, and is responsible for the digital technology sector in the United States. Professionally, Mr. Velker's service includes advisory board member at Connect 5G and chairman of the advisory board at Trinidad, where he served as CEO. His community service has included past executive board member for the North Central Texas Council of Governments, past board member of North Texas Regional Transportation Commission, past Texas Governor's IT Committee, Texas Workforce Commission, past chairman of the board, Richardson Texas Chamber of Commerce, past ex officio board member at Tech Titans, past UTD Johnson School of Industrial Advisory Board Executive Committee, past board of directors, RISD Tomorrow Corporation Foundation, past president of his HOA, and I'm pleased to announce that soon he will be the past moderator of 2 RISD forums, one earlier today. Paul and his wife Chris both graduated from William Penn University and have lived in Richardson for over 30 years and have an adult son. So now I give you Paul Velker.
I'd the voters for giving us the opportunity to have my resume one more time. It truly is an honor to be here. It's kind of nice to be on this side of the podium instead of that side. I can tell you, I wish everyone the best for today. I'd like to start with some housekeeping. So everyone, please silence your cell phones and other devices. Flash photography is not allowed during the forum, as it's a distraction to the candidates. Prior to today, each candidate agreed to abide by all forum ground rules. These rules include showing respect to each other at all times. Candidates have agreed not to interrupt one another, nor talk over each other. They agreed to refrain from personal attacks or charges. Audience, please refrain from applause or any other form of support or opposition to any candidate. The purpose of the forum is to hear what the candidates have to say, so please, let's give them as much time as possible and save our applause until the end of the program. Besides the RISD Board of Trustees races, you may have other items on your ballot, such as City Council elections. Regarding only this RISD race, you must live in RISD single-member District 2 in order to vote for District 2 election. The District 4 and 5 seats will also appear on your ballot, but only those of voters who live in those districts. The District 4 race is uncontested, and District 5 race is contested. A candidate forum for that race was held here today at 1 o'clock. There's a map in the foyer to show the boundaries of all 5 RSD single-member districts. All questions will be asked of all candidates. We will rotate the order of the candidates' answers. Candidates are seated on stage in order of the names as they will appear in the ballot. To introduce the candidates in order, for District 2, ballot position 1, Elaine Bonavita. For District 2, ballot position 2, Trustee Vanessa Pacheco. For District 2, ballot position 3, Pamela Hughes. In lieu of an opening statement, each candidate submitted a short biography, which was printed and handed out when you entered the auditorium. Candidates, you have 1.5 minutes to answer each question. Question 1 will begin with single-member district candidate ballot position 1, Miss Bonavita.
Bonavita. Good life in Italian, and it is. Thank you.
Bonavita.
Yes, thank you.
The first question. What are your priorities as a Board of Trustees member for the next 3 years? Please elaborate.
When I am elected, and I pray to the Lord God that I will be elected to the Board of Trustees, it will be my second time serving on a school board. And my priorities for this district that I have observed are my priorities when I was teaching in the Richardson School District here for 3 years recently. I have observed the problems that have been leading to declining enrollment. Declining enrollment is an issue that needs to be addressed, and I want to make our district a magnet, not a dragnet. Too many people have given up on Richardson schools. You know, I grew up in Catholic schools, but public education halfway through. And I got straight A's. I couldn't speak English when I started school. My parents were immigrants straight off from Italy. I couldn't speak English, but the teachers took their time with me. It was the basic 3 R's. Declining enrollment is causing our district. We closed 4 schools, and I cried about it. We closed 4 schools. Who does that? We can do better. I want to do better as a Board of Trustees. Discipline, #1 problem. Teachers cited on their surveys. Teachers said #1 problem was bad behavior in the classroom. Our teachers are leaving. We want to keep our teachers. Teachers have reported to me so many times that they're not coming back. We want our teachers to stay. We can make them stay, and that's a priority. Keep our teachers.
Thank you. Ms. Pacheco.
Yes, my priorities for the next few years is to continue to improve student outcomes by improving our student programming. Because without improving our student programs, our students may or may not fall back, right? But we want to make sure they have every opportunity opportunity and experience to do learning paths that they're interested in and so that they're educated for their future careers. The other priority I would have is let's continue to improve our teacher pay scale and our other professionals. We have support staff that are in day in, day out, supporting our students, and those pay scales need to be improved upon and paid for because they're doing great work. We also want to find efficiencies in our budget. It is difficult. We have made difficult decisions by finding these efficiencies. However, we have continued to keep our classroom sizes small. We did pay our teachers a lot more and supported our veteran teachers and became the #1 school district name our teachers this past year. And so I'm really proud of that, and I'm very proud to wanting to continue to do these improvements in our district. Thank you.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes, so I have two top priorities as to why I'm running, and I've had at this point over 1,000 conversations with District 2 constituents at their doorsteps. Everybody's question across the board is, are our students learning at grade level what they're supposed to be learning? So I think hearing that, our trustees' top priority has to be student outcomes. So that is making sure that our students are at grade level and that we're closing the the achievement gaps that we continue to see. It's no secret, the demographics of our district are changing, and if we can't begin to close these achievement gaps now, it's not going to be an easier situation 5-10 years from now. So we need to start making choices about our resources now to really address the achievement gaps. I've got 2 kiddos in the district. We can't wait 5 years to see how this first set of board goals plays out and then start making adjustments. So priority number 1, student accountability outcomes. Priority number 2 is connected to that, and that is making sure that we have trustees who are regularly communicating with their constituents, right? That's where I'm hearing a priority come back to me from folks who live here in Richardson, and that is how we then verify, yep, this is a priority that needs to come back to the district. So the second is right there connected. A trustee who will show up and talk to you, even if we've not met before, even if we may not agree on everything.
We go to the second question, Ms. Pacheco. We know federal cuts are coming. What is your experience with public budgets, and how will it help you determine the best needs and uses of RISD's budget?
So I do have a finance background, and I've worked with fairly large budgets on a corporate level. Here, with federal cuts, we utilize them to supplement a lot of the programs that we provide our students, from special education to gifted and talented. They're incorporated in our campus improvement plans, and just generally also to pay for some of our extra staff in our Title I schools. The danger of losing this funding means that our district will not have to supplement even more. It doesn't mean that the district is going to remove any programming. We are still charged to educate every single student and to give them all the education we need, supports that they need to learn and be successful. So with that, we have to look at our budgetary constraints and find efficiencies in ways that don't affect the students directly. It's difficult. We can get creative. Hopefully we will continue to advocate, and I'm hopeful that the state will listen to all our school districts. We are not the only one in the state who is going through this, and receive the funding. We need to receive the funding we deserve for our kids. They are our #1 priority, and our students are the future of our economies and systems that make us successful. Thank you.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes, so I have experience, if the question was on public budgets, being paid out of the public budget, helping to set proposals and then measure against clients who are paying out of the public budget. And then for the last 2.5 years, where I've been working at the United Methodist Church, I work at the conference level. It's 400 churches from the Panhandle all the way down to Round Rock. We've been focusing on what do we do with the declining membership? How do we realign our budget to make sure that we can still reach our mission, even if there are fewer funds coming in? So for the last 2.5 years, I have been waist deep align resources to do the work that we need to do. And in this case, it's a membership organization. In the case of the school district, it's the taxpayers. But being able to go back and say, with the resources we've received and the priorities that we have, here's where we are. And key to that has been communicating, in that case with members, in this case to taxpayers, about here's how we're doing the prioritizing. Are we on track? Let's check in as we do this instead of show up one day with a fully made proposal and hope that it's the one that our folks wanted as they've entrusted us with the school district. So yes, I think I've got some good applicable experience there, and I'm ready to bring those skills to the RISD school board.
Ms. Bonavita.
Could you please repeat? It was a three-part question, and I got your first two parts. Could you repeat the third part of your question, please? Hello.
Sorry, I got ahead of myself there.
Okay.
We know federal cuts are coming. What is your experience with public budgets, and how will it help you determine the best needs and use of RISD's budget?
This is what I live for, budgets. I was on the city council at large. I was a single unwed mother with a high school degree when I was elected to the city council in Massachusetts. The city council refused to listen to the people who were overburdened by our taxes. Property taxes were out of control, and this was in 1978. Well, I decided to do something about it, and I raised my voice with other city councilors who were conservative throughout the state of Massachusetts. We co-sponsored Proposition 2.5 in 1978, major tax relief for the state of Massachusetts. The people who voted for it adopted it, and it is still in place today, and reduced property taxes, car taxes. And this was what I wanted to do when I went on the city council to help the people do this. Let's talk about federal cuts. Folks, they're not coming. I'm a Republican, I'll say it here right now, I voted for Donald Trump, I believe in what he's doing. Federal cuts are not coming. The Department of Education, listen to me, we don't fear or dread what we don't understand. Billions of dollars are coming back to the states with no strings attached. No more millions spent in our school district on unwanted programs anymore, nothing to do with education. Billions of dollars passed straight to the state. We can give pay raises to our teachers. We can raise the cost per student with the tax legislature money, and trust me, I will be a liaison with my experience writing laws with my law background to make sure this happens, to get that money back here. I'll make sure it happens when you elect me. Thank you.
Next question, Ms. Hughes. What is the public relations role of a board member, and how can the board be more accessible to the community?
Thank you for this question. This is one that I love. My background is in communication, so when you ask what's the public relations role of a board member, of a trustee, these are the folks who the community has elected to be our voice at the horseshoe, right behind us as decisions are made. They bring their own wisdom, their own insights, of course, but should also be bringing the questions that we're hearing from our neighbors. That's why we moved to the 5-2 model of having trustees who are elected from across the whole district, because we need to make sure that unique perspectives and challenges and celebrations are showing up right here in this room. So in one way, we are, the trustees are the voice to the district. It's two-way though, because trustees are also the folks who go back to the community to represent RISD. Our district leaders can't be everywhere. Frankly, they should be focused on what's happening in our schools. And so our trustees are there to be able to bring back, here's what's happening in the auditorium, in the school board meetings, here's why, here's what you can expect, here's where you can get engaged. I like to make sure that folks know, because PR is my profession, you can't spin things that aren't true. So there has to be that truth, there has to be substance, and then the trustees can show up to make sure that folks are engaged where they should be, that they're hearing what they should be, and that we're all on the same page and doing this together.
Ms. Bonavita.
Another question. Boy, do I have experience in getting accessibility to the parents, the teachers, the students even. When I was on the school board, listen to this. In Waterloo, Iowa, when I was on the school board in the 1990s, I visited all the schools as a school board member. I met with the teachers, I met with parents. I knew what was going on, first-hand experience. And here's what happened. When we were on the school board and we had our meetings like you do here, it was televised, and the parents still weren't getting enough information through the media. So I started up my own television talk show back then. We didn't have online anything. And hundreds of parents started coming to our school board meetings. We were flooded. We had to open up our overflow rooms for school board meetings. It was the most wonderful thing. And for me, with my talk show and with meeting with the parents, I could bring them the issues that they weren't aware of. And here's the thing. When I was on the school board, I took at least 60 phone calls a week, and people, it didn't matter, Democrats, Republicans, people who were angry, people who were, they called me because you know what they tell me on the phone? You listen to us, you'll do something about this, and I gotta tell you what's happening. Will you help us? And I would take their calls and I would do something about it with my experience. From the city council to the school board, there's no better transition for an elected official to have experience in both city government and school board government. I tell you this is true.
Ms. Pacheco.
Yes, our public relations as a school board, what we do is we do hear the voice of our constituents, and we share that information with the district based on the question that that constituent has asked. There is a governance line with what we do, and it's also very important that when we see a question from a community member that needs to be addressed by a particular group in the school district, then that question is then delivered there, so that I can follow up later that we have fixed their situation, we have shared the problem, and then we sometimes, if we hear a lot of questions about the same thing, the rest of us as school board as trustees, we talk about it, and then we share that information with our superintendent, and she comes back with solutions that take place at that particular school for that particular family. So that's how we do that. There are a lot of measures and metrics that we provide our community. For example, we call committees. We share that information in social media. We talk about it here in the horseshoe. We send it out in various newsletters, asking our communities to participate in those committees. We request and wish to see community participation from every neighborhood, but we can't make them participate if they don't want to. We can reach out and ask them to do so, and we hope that is improved over time. Thank you.
Next question. This will be for Ms. Bonavita. How do you plan to address the negative reputations that some of the schools have in District 2?
Well, first of all, I would have to agree with negative reputations, especially in District 2, as I have taught as a degree to substitute teacher in District 2 for the last 3 years when I came off my mission from serving in the King's Public Schools. I came back 3 years ago and I've been in Richardson Schools. And I tell you this, when I was in Mark Twain Elementary, I could hold them up as a model for every district, every school district in the state of Texas. And I have been around and I've seen a lot. And I tell you this, in Mark Twain Elementary, those children are so respectful. They do everything that is expected of them. The principal is on target with the teachers. There's communication. And in Just Harbin Elementary, where I also taught, I tell you this, I did not see any negative reputation coming out of those schools, and I taught at some other elementary schools. Now, the negative reputations, now I will attribute to discipline problems. We need a zero tolerance policy in our schools. That's why teachers cited it as the #1 problem. Discipline, they're leaving the schools because of it. It is a problem. But at Mark Twain Elementary, praise God, there was no problem with discipline in our schools. But if there is a negative reputation, it's attributed to the discipline problem. And the Board of Trustees has the power to start a policy and work it and enforce it for zero tolerance. Elementary schools I'm talking about. Zero tolerance for bad behavior in the classroom. They have no consequences now.
Ms. Pacheco.
Yes, thank you for that. It is important to understand and know that a lot of our schools across the nation have situations that are difficult and are hard. You know, we have behavioral problems in some places a little bit more than in other places. We have tasked our administrators to make sure we have psychologists, we have interventionists and different methods to support our students that are having emotional situations at their schools. We also have SROs, and we have different programs for our students who engage in behaviors that are less than appropriate. Outside of that, however, I would want to focus that our schools are not having negative reputations. We have very successful programs in District 2. We have CTE programs we have implemented, including construction, HVAC, aviation. We have learning paths, like the medical learning path, where the Methodist Hospital has joined in and is now increasing their square feet of footage by 10,000 so that they can continue to support that huge number of students that are going through that tract. We have our Grow On program, where we are teaching our students how to become teachers so that they can go to college, get their degree, and come back and be teachers. So we have very many successful programs. I'm going to also add our financial center at Bergner for our students, where they're reaching out to the community, teaching them how to do their finances, teaching young kids how to save, and it's a whole learning path for some of our kids that join that. That's student group. Thank you.
Ms. Hughes.
This is a spot where I think we need really clear, direct communication from district leadership, not even from the trustees, because it's an imperative as we look at declining enrollment. I've taken a look at the demographer's report, and it's not anything new this year, but if we just look at the transfer out rates across our high schools, what's happening in District 2 does look different than what's happening at our other 3 high schools. And I don't think it is an indictment of the students or the teachers there to say, these numbers look different, families are making a different choice in this part of the district, we should understand why. Because we're looking at how do we better utilize our building. If we're losing 25% of the students who are zoned to go to Berkner and they're going to other schools, we should get to the bottom of why that is. It's an imperative as we're looking at how do we make sure that RISD schools remain the one for families in light of what's happening in Austin. If we're seeing from folks' behavior that we have something happening that's different, we need to be able to dig into that and do it honestly and transparently. And now as we look ahead to next year with inter-district transfers, I mean, it's about to be a question that's not just within RISD, but if we're hoping to bring folks from Plano and Dallas, I do think we at least have to start by saying if there is a negative reputation, we need to understand what's happening and what we can do about it.
Question number 5, Ms. Pacheco. Religion in schools is becoming a contentious topic. How will you navigate the issue, and can you keep your personal beliefs separate?
Religion in schools is, can you repeat that?
It is becoming a contentious topic, and how will you navigate the issue, and can you keep your personal beliefs separate?
Well, I don't actually see why we would have to have any type of religious topic in our schools unless it's upon us. And my personal belief system is my personal belief system, and I've never pushed that on any other person outside of myself. And I respect everyone else's belief system as they come in our schools, in our buildings, whether they're students or teachers. And all our schools basically focus on educating our students with the teams and the different programming that we give, and I don't believe there's any religion within them. Thank you.
Ms. Hughes.
Yeah, this is a question that I've been answering one-on-one with a lot of folks because they see, hey, you work for the United Methodist Church. Are you trying to get church into schools? First, I want to be very clear, no. And additionally, the United Methodist Church isn't supportive of what we're seeing come out of Austin. So questions like 10 Commandments in the classroom, or the state mandating that school boards take a vote on prayer in school. I know I shared in the previous forum. Those are a no for me. I believe the state and church need to remain separate. I'll actually agree with Ms. Pacheco here. My personal faith is my personal faith. The faith that I discuss with my students is something that we do in the Hughes household, and it's not something that needs to be taught at school. And there are instances, I'll differ here, where we know that, for example, biblical literary allusions, it's going to be important for our students to be able to understand works of literature and art. So there are moments where religion comes into education in an appropriate way. There's not an appropriate way for public schools to teach faith.
Ms. Bonavita.
Well, this is a good subject for me as a returned missionary. I will not bring my missionary activities or testimonies into the classroom, and I never have, and I never will. However, we all have disagreements, don't we? It doesn't matter if we're Democrats or Republicans. It doesn't matter if we're for this or for that. We'll all have disagreements. But here's the key to this question and answer. We do need to follow the law. Now, out of the Texas State Legislature, what has come down? We've heard them speak right now to the 10 Commandments. That's been approved so far in the Senate bills. One thing that caught my interest was prayer is being allowed for teachers. Teachers can say prayers, and they will have any consequences for it now in their classrooms and the schools. Did you hear that? That's coming down now. And I'm grateful for that because we have the right, and I did in the classroom. I always prayed before the students came in. I prayed, but by myself. And if I ever got caught, what would happen? I don't know. But now teachers don't have to be afraid to ask God to help them and bless their students. And what is wrong with that? Really, what's wrong with that quiet little prayer from a teacher or a student in the classroom who just wants to do good on a test? A quiet little prayer, and he puts his head down and prays and asks for that help. Is there anything really wrong with that?
Question number 6. A little background and ask the question. School vouchers in Texas have become a central issue with growing concerns that they divert essential and limited public funds to private institutions. How do you see Richardson ISD benefiting, if at all, from the potential loss of both enrollment and funding as mid to higher income families opt for private education with taxpayer dollars? What's your position on protecting public education resources if vouchers pass in Texas? Ms. Hughes.
I just want to make sure I understood the question. I don't see a benefit for RISD, for our public schools, or for our students if families opt out and take vouchers. I think you're correct in the context of the question. It will starve our public schools of resources that they need to address real concerns and to educate the 5.5 million Texas children who are in public schools. As far as how I would protect resources, so trustees are able to influence and advocate, so can everyone else. I went down to Austin back in February with the RISD Council of PTAs to go talk to our legislators. I encourage everyone to reach out to your legislators. What the trustees can do, though, as well, is all the way back to the first question, that focus on student outcomes and accountability. That really here, our defense will be a good offense. Are we sure that we are doing everything that we can, prioritizing the resources that we do receive to make sure that the schools within RISD can remain the school of choice for every family, regardless of what neighborhood they're in or which part of RISD. Thank you.
Ms. Bonavita.
Can you repeat that question, please?
So school vouchers in Texas have become a central issue with growing concern that they divert essential and limited public funds to private institutions. How do you see Richardson ISD benefiting, if at all, from the potential loss of both enrollment and funding as mid to higher income families opt for private education with taxpayer dollars? What's your position on protecting public education resources if vouchers pass in Texas?
First of all, it's not vouchers. It's a complacent misleading by the media that these are vouchers. We're not talking about vouchers anymore. The education savings accounts, and I agree with the ESA. I did not agree with the vouchers because there is no accountability. You hand out a check. Who does that? And the state legislature recognized that. Democrats and Republicans came together, and I love it when we can come together like this. And they came up with the education savings account. What does that mean? Well, it's accountability. There's different accounts, and homeschoolers now can access it to pay for their books. Private schoolers can access it for a multitude of little different things with accounts. Texas state legislature has control now of the money. And what are the benefits? The benefits to this are when private schools and homeschoolers are getting what they need, guess what's going to happen? We're going to have more opportunities to learn what they're doing, to embrace what's working with them, and to encourage these parents to come back. We want these parents to come back. And what better way to do it than to know what they're doing that's working? And when our parents are trying to leave, we can work harder now. That's the benefit. We're going to work harder to keep our parents here, do a survey, send it out, and keep our parents here. That's the benefit. People don't look at it as a benefit, but it is.
Ms. Pacheco.
As trustee, I supported the resolution to not support vouchers in our district. I am fully against it, of course. We have a legislative committee within our board, and we speak regularly with our legislators in state, asking them not to support these vouchers because it will start our schools. I don't understand why any taxpayer would want to fund a coupon for people who want to send their kids to a private school. Finally, how do we attract, what do we do when this happens? Well, we've been talking about it, we've been planning for it, and we know that improving our programs and really focusing on how these programs are going to be improved, how they give student outcomes, and in fact, these improvements we created have had a really high CCMR score recently for our kids, our recent graduates. We know we're doing the good work, we know we can continue to improve on it, and we're going to keep our families in our district and attract new families because we're providing education to all our students regardless of their learning needs and providing them with expert teachers and staff.
Question number 7, Ms. Bonavita. Project Right Size significantly impacted many RISD families. In an effort to serve the greater good of the district, District 2 families felt an impact specifically in the Duck Creek neighborhood as their school board representative failed to communicate or address their concerns. How can families trust that you will communicate, listen, and advocate for them to the board in the future when their schools and neighborhoods face upcoming district challenges?
I was waiting for this question. I prayed for this question. Project Right Size, closing 4 schools. All right. The power of no, folks. The power of no. Board of Trustees have the power of no. It was a unanimous vote to close the 4 schools. I would have been a vote no on that. Why would I have been a vote no? Why would I continue to be a vote no if any more opportunities to close another school would ever come up, which we hope and pray will never happen? Okay. The power of no. You need to ask questions. You need to resize the situation. Actually, ask the superintendent to bring back another proposal. The proposal that you have been presented with on the Board of Trustees is not satisfactory to the parents, to the taxpayers, and that's what we're looking at. Then we need to say no to that proposal to close 4 schools. There are other options, other alternatives available. There always have been. I've been on a school board before in the city council. I can tell you this. It is true. I've always found other alternatives other than what was presented by the mayors or the superintendents to us when I was on boards and city councils. Ask questions, use the power of no, and stop what is not going to work if they ask you to support it.
Ms. Pacheco.
Yes, during Project Right Size, we started talking about the idea and the fact and the impact of our capacity utilization in our buildings, in our schools. And we did this about 18 months before the Project Right Size vote happened. 3 months in, after talking about capacity and the lack of money to fund the schools with very low capacity, that means we had schools running at 50–60%. We charged the district to create a committee, and that committee worked for about 8 or 9 months together to provide a plan. During that time, so that's within 18 months, during that time that committee was formed, and it should have been created by a multitude of community members that, again, we reached out, we marketed, we asked, and hopefully many community members from many different neighborhoods participated. Unfortunately, some community members didn't participate. After those 18 months, we made that decision. It was a hard decision, but I will support our teachers, and it was important to support our teachers, continue to keep classroom sizes small, and pay them the salaries that we went on the pay scale to do so. As far as communication, we did communicate. We had a whole set of line and email set up to answer every single question for every single community member, and we did so as a board. And I want to remind the community that I do understand that District 2 is Florida has certain constituents. However, it is my duty and job to represent every single student because my decisions affect all students, not just our District 2 students.
Thank you. Did we change the battery? Okay, good. Ms. Hughes.
Yes, so this is a question, this is actually when folks started asking me to run for school board, was over a year ago. And what I've heard just now, there was no opposition to the school closures. And so what I'm hearing is that people still aren't listening. Duck Creek was impacted by a boundary line that split a neighborhood in half in a way that no other neighborhoods are. And that's done. And that's not why I'm running. I'm running because what it brought to light for me was where and how our community is involved and where and how the community gets sidelined during decision making. This one has and continues to impact my life. I've got a 6th grader at Yale and a 4th grader at Dartmouth. And so now a full year later, I've been in the situation of being both a home that was rezoned, where my kid is doing his final year of elementary school at a new school, and I've been on the receiving side to see how the district has or has not supported the outcome of the decisions from last year. And a lot has been left on PTAs and on teachers that we raised a year ago from the microphone right here, and we didn't get answers. We didn't receive responses to our emails, and that is a huge part of why I'm running, because I heard from neighbor after neighbor who couldn't even get an audience with our trustee, but we were able to talk to our state reps, the superintendent, anyone but the folks who would vote on a decision that impacted our kids.
Question number 8. Ms. Pacheco, do you support keeping local elections nonpartisan? Why or why not?
Yes, absolutely. All our local elections should be nonpartisan. It doesn't matter what families believe or what political party they belong to. The school board is charged and dedicated to teaching every single student and to make them successful and ready with a strong foundation so that they can lead successful lives and choose whatever career they want to choose.
Sorry, would you repeat the question?
Do you support keeping local elections nonpartisan? Why or why not?
Absolutely. I think that these local school board elections are nonpartisan for a really good reason. It's what we're seeing play out in Austin right now. We cannot turn our children's education into a political game. So for those of you who've been in District 2 for a little while, in 2022, we saw partisan money coming from South Lake into this race in a way that was really concerning. Which is another piece of why I decided to run this year, was to make sure we didn't have a repeat of what we saw in 2022. This year, I'm the only candidate in this race who has committed to not taking any partisan endorsements, and I'm not taking any partisan contributions, nothing from PACs, nothing from partisan groups. And I've put another constraint on myself of only taking contributions from individuals who either live or work here within RISD because it's a local, nonpartisan election. I think it's that important. I hope that we don't see money coming into these races again this year from partisan folks who have no ties to RISD.
Ms. Bonavita.
Well, as one who went on the city council as a Democrat and left it as a Republican, I was very swayed by what I saw going on in politics that I was not aware of before I sat on the city council. Nonpartisan, I've been nonpartisan elected official, school board, city council, and with the right to vote that I pursued and organized in Utah and put on the ballot the right to vote for the people with that coal power plant. The people were divided in that community, and you know, they voted and adopted my law for the right to vote on any coal power plant without the county commission's permission. The people had to vote on it first, and that brought peace to the community. Partisan elections, yes, it would be easier. if they were partisan, but nonpartisan is for a reason. I represent Democrats and Republicans. I don't care, they come from all walks of life. I represent them because that is my duty to do that. And I don't discriminate against anyone, and I never have. But as far as no endorsements, I don't have any endorsements listed. I don't have any donations because I never have solicited endorsements. I ran both my campaigns at large for school city under $100, and I took the entire city and the entire school district under $100 with no endorsements, no donations, but by the hand of Lord God Almighty, God say it, that's all it takes to do the right thing, and people will believe you, trust in you, and vote for you.
Question 9, Ms. Hughes. How would you prioritize spending and advocate sustainable financial solutions?
I think when we look at the district budget, with the knowledge that the demographers are still projecting declining enrollment, so we know that we're going to have to make budget decisions. Top priority, all the way back to the first question, has to be student outcomes. So being able to differentiate what is a line item that is directly impacting students' learning versus what is a line item that's impacting adults. It's kind of how I've heard it explained in some of the workshops. So being able to take a look at what has that direct impact. Teachers in the classroom, learning materials, instructional materials. These are the things we need to make sure remain the priority as we set the budget. Areas that don't directly impact the student learning, some of the programs may need a rationalization, tell us how is this contributing to the great student outcomes. But I've been in tough budget conversations before. They can be uncomfortable, and that doesn't make them something that we can skip. So being able to come in with an understanding of everyone needs to be able to justify the expenses so that we can feel good about, yes, the things we prioritize are the ones that are going to get us the outcome for our students.
Ms. Bonavita.
Can you repeat that question?
How would you prioritize spending and advocate sustainable financial solutions?
How would I prioritize? Repeat that again.
How would you prioritize spending and advocate sustainable financial solutions?
Oh, boy, that question, I love it. Okay, let's talk about bringing more money into our district. User fees, when I was on the school board, I advocated user fees. When I was on the city council, I advocated user fees. If you use it, you pay for it. If it's not in our budget already, user fees, we're seeing it with the Explore program in elementary schools and in our higher education schools. We're seeing Explore programs. The parents are paying large amounts of money for the Explore program after school. User fees will bring money into the district and stop being a drain on our resources that we desperately need for pay raises, hello, and to continue with the curriculum in our schools. Listen, there's a blue bonnet curriculum right now that I've been reading about, and that has been approved by the Texas State Legislature. $60 per student the state will give our district if we adopt it as a Board of Trustees, and I will vote to do that. It's for the curriculum for math. And we should explore it, literally explore it, and look at it and see if it would work for us. And that's $60 per student. Those are resources we need to look at. For the declining enrollment, we need to look at open enrollment. Now, I've heard talk about that. I want people to come in from all over the area to transfer to our schools. Open enrollment, I was big on that in the other school board in Iowa. Dual enrollment, if the private schools don't have programs, after school programs, they can dual enroll. That's more money for us, for resources, and financial budget will increase. We need to do anything and everything we can to bring more money into our district. And with me on that board, with my past experience of city and school, we're going to bring in the money and we don't have to worry about what we're going to shut down that we desperately need to keep.
Ms. Pacheco.
So some of the financial solutions, we've been working a lot with utilization and finding efficiencies in our district. I will say that I'm really proud that our district has the lowest cost in administrative use or expense compared to other local districts around us. We are highly efficient with administrative costs. We find efficiencies in other places. Unfortunately, it is hard because we have old buildings and we have to fix these, and we wish we didn't have to, but you know, some of them are 60 years old. We try to find efficiencies in fixing them as well. Another thing we do is we want to focus, and we always look at how we invest in our programs in the way that brings the biggest return for our students, right? Which ones are achieving the highest outcomes as far as their experience and their learning paths. We also want to look at the scalability of these programs. Can we replicate them in different places? And how much does it cost? Ultimately, our school board, we focus and we fund on what matters. And what matters is our students, it's our students' student growth outcome, and it's their success. Thank you.
Our 10th and last question, Ms. Bonavita. Would you recommend implementing superintendent constraints to ensure adherence to district goals?
Repeat that slowly.
Would you recommend implementing superintendent constraints to ensure adherence to district goals?
We pay how much money for our superintendents to do what the Board of Trustees are not qualified to do as a superintendent. When I was on the board, school board, we hired superintendents. We vetted them. When I was on the city council, we hired city managers, and we vetted them. And I was very careful about making sure they would do what we needed them to do to match up with the cultural balance in our community. You know, I trust Superintendent Brown. I've spoken with her in person, I've met with her, I trust her. If I have a question, I don't need to put any restraints on a superintendent. If I trust that superintendent, if I voted on her, which I have not, but I would sustain her as I see what she's done now, although the closing of the schools that disturbed me. Okay, so for the superintendent, if we had to put restraints on them, why don't we keep the superintendent in the first place? So if they're not doing their job, then we would get an opportunity to review her record. If it's not agreeing with the Board of Trustees, then we have the opportunity to change out superintendents. And putting restraints on them, I don't think that would be necessary because I've always trusted my superintendents. If they were doing their job, there's no reason to look at that as an opportunity to cause trouble in the community.
Ms. Pacheco.
Yes, thank you. For student school board superintendent evaluation, we do put, we call them guardrails. And what we do is we focus on what the board goals are, the information that they provided us throughout the year, programming, different types of data that comes in, including our state mandated guardrails that are provided for the superintendent evaluation. Every employee needs to be evaluated, and our school board is tasked with that. She is our only employee. I fully support a lot of the programming and her creativity that Superintendent Brown has provided the school board to ensure that our budget is as effective and efficient as we can make it, to ensure that at the same time give our students the education that they need. It is super important to keep that on task. As trustees, we monitor the programming, we monitor the results, and we approve changes if that change needs to be made. Well, that's basically what we do. Thank you.
Thank you.
So RISD has 5-year goals in place right now that our current board voted on in 2022, and they are good goals. And I do think that they should continue to be the way that we measure the superintendent. 2 of those goals are around 3rd grade reading and 3rd grade math on their STAR performance. I don't know that we need to add constraints there. We do have good interim tracking goals as well. What I'd like to see more of in the evaluation time is really making sure that these aren't a set of goals that we pass and that we posted on the website, and then we report on so many other items, which are also good pieces of data, but they're not the 3 board goals. And so just making sure that we prioritize where and how we're evaluating the performance of our schools. I welcome everyone to go take a look at those online. This is personal for me because my son is out here. He was one of the 3rd graders taking the STAR math and reading last year. And we saw the scores there stagnate and decline. So not only are we not hitting our goals right now, we're not moving towards them. And I do think that that is a question that we need to be able to ask honestly and in front of the community, because there's a dangerous narrative out there that our public schools are failing, and that's not the case in Richardson. We have to be able to assess where we are if we want to see movement towards those goals that were really good ones to set in 2022.
Thank you. Closing statements will be made in reverse ballot order. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. Your program may say 1.5 minutes, but I get agreed in advance for 2, so that's what we're going to do. We will begin with single member District 2 ballot position 3, Ms. Hughes.
Wonderful. Well, thank you first to the League of Women Voters for hosting this event today. I think it's really important to have nonpartisan settings like this where folks can come hear straight from the candidates. I'm not sure it came up in any of the other answers, but I'm sure it's in the bio that I provided. But the most common question I've received is, why are you running for school board? Like, what would compel you to run for school board? So I do want to share, this is not something that was on my list of goals. I'm a very goal-oriented person. This is not one that I had to check off. I'm running, though, because my community asked me to. And as I did mention, it started a little over a year ago when the conversation was around school closures and then how that would play out across the rest of the district and across our neighborhood. There were some very kind neighbors who said, "You've been good at this. Have you ever thought about running? You should be up there." And I said, "You're really sweet. That doesn't sound like something I want to do." But then folks kind of outside the concentric circle started asking, and it was administrators and former administrators in the district saying, "You'd be good at this." It was former school board trustees who sat up here and done the work who were saying, "You should really consider this." And so I took it seriously once it hit that point. So over the last year, I have invested so much time in attending school board meetings. I think I've made it to all but one in the last year. Waiting until the very end. I have become an RISD ambassador this year. I've set up coffees and meetings with Superintendent Branham, extended invitations to all 7 of our trustees to sit down for coffee. I've gotten to know the department heads, and every step along the way I've said, you know, people were right. I do have a background that I think would be a value add for the 4 things that trustees do, which is set the vision and goals, hire and evaluate our superintendent, set policy in alignment with those goals, and approve the budget. So that's why I'm before you today here, instead of happily sitting on the other side listening to the candidates, and I do hope to earn your vote. Thank you.
Ms. Pacheco.
It's been an honor and a privilege to serve as a school board member for the last few years. I will say I've been involved in our schools since probably about before 2017. And over that time, I have learned. I ran for school board early on. And during that process of learning, I completed 2 fellowships prior to my run in 2020. And I also, with those fellowships, I did budgetary, superintendent evaluations, student outcomes. I believe that teaching our students and serving our students is serving our communities and our future. I am here because it is important to have experience, to have someone who understands budget and finance, and to be able to work together with a board that already works together, because we're going to have some difficult decisions and hard times coming up. It is also important for me to share in the experience and to be a face for a lot of our students and families and be that bridge. We have definitely improved a lot of things over the tenure of those few years as a school board member and with the team that I've been working with and I'm really proud to be a part of. Ways such as, expanding our translation department, expanding pre-K, expanding CTE programs, having top-of-the-line fine arts performance orchestras and bands and mariachis and folkloricos. And I'm really proud of that work that we've been doing together as a community and supporting our superintendent and our staff doing so. I'm proud that we raised teacher salaries. I'm proud that we're opening another pre-K and child care center / pre-K, in our area for our teachers and staff. I'm proud we created additional retention programs to keep our teachers and staff. And I want to continue doing this work because it's not going to get easier. And I want to include our community to continue to advocate to our legislators not just in the state, but nationally, that our schools matter, because our schools matter to me. Thank you.
Ms. Bonavita.
I am happy because I am here today. I am happy because I have another opportunity to serve on a school board again. Why did I open my closing statement with I am happy? Every morning, whatever class I have been assigned to teach over the last 3 years as a permanent substitute teacher, I would open the class, all grade levels, whatever I had, I would open with the question, why are you happy today? I would see students come in crying, walk right into school in the morning crying. I would see students come in angry. I would see students come in and just have such a rebellious nature. And I know there were a lot of unhappy students because I had several injuries in the classroom. I still have medical bills from an injury from 2 years ago in the classroom from disruptive students. Who thought it was fun while their full-time teacher was in the room. They dismantled a heavy storage room door that went from the ceiling to the floor, a heavy metal door. They dismantled the hinges when he left, and I didn't know about that, and I was walking past the door. It fell and it laid me flat by the grace of the good Lord. It did not decapitate me when it flattened me out, but it did cause great harm to my leg and my foot. I'm still receiving medical treatments to that injury. I never got a women's comp for it, but many injuries occurred in the classrooms and disrupted students. I am here because I want to make our students happy. And I would sing the happy song with the students. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. And they would start singing, and everybody would start getting happy. We'd do the happy dance. And then I'd have them stand up every morning in the classes and say, I am happy because. And some didn't want to stand up. They didn't have a reason to be happy, they thought. But after they heard the reasons why other students were happy, all of a sudden they wanted to stand up and say, I want to do it now too, every class for 3 years. We hire happy teachers, we'll retain happy students, and we'll keep happy parents. Stop declining enrollments, be happy.
I want to thank all three of the candidates, and let's give them all a big round.
And how about Paul Belcher as moderator? Thank you so much. I have a few announcements that we have to make. Question number 7, which was asked tonight, will not be in the video. That question does not meet legal and voters criteria for a question that should be asked. Mr. Belcher asked the questions that he was handed by league policy. That question should not have been handed to him. I do apologize to all the candidates for that. Second thing, during one of the questions, and I honestly don't remember which question it was, we had a battery that went dead, and it was changed out. That's a different question from what I was just talking about. Affects that not all 3 of the candidates had a chance to answer in full their answer to that question. That question also will not be in the video. So we asked 13 questions tonight, I believe. So that means on the video, you will only see 11 or 12, depending upon the technical difficulties and that we had. So I do apologize for that. But remember that in the online voters guide, we have 15 questions that we asked them. We're going to get at least 11 from today, so I think you can still make an informed vote when we go to the polls. So, thank you, audience, for being here today, and the audience online, and for your attention to the candidates. Remember that your vote only counts if you vote. 3 years ago, only just over 4,100 people voted in Richardson ISD District 2 election. 4,100 people. Early voting this year is from April 22nd to the 29th. Election day is May 3rd. See you at the polls. Thank you very much.